D-Gen Nation fam, what is going on? What is happening? It's the D-Gen Nation podcast coming at you, and we're live or recorded, however you're listening to us. Either way, we get in as we fit in. We're happy to be here breaking down the Week 15 DFS picks with you, of course, as always, from the DraftKings lens. Ryan Williams here at Ryan Alexander _W is where you can find me on Twitter and X. Joined as always by my usual co-host and suspect, the godfather of TFA himself, Mr. Kevin Steele at Fantasy Rat 13 is where you can find him on Twitter and X. Kev, 15. We're at week 15 now. How you doing? How you feeling? Talk to the people.
Good. The fantasy playoffs are upon us for season long. I have 6 teams that advanced to the underdog playoffs through that, so that I'm looking forward to that. Thankfully, I went through and looked last night. I was dead.
How many are dead after Kyle Pitts?
So I went and looked at all 6 of those. None of Kyle Pitts. Nobody had Kyle Pitts.
Of course.
No, not my teams. Nobody in those.
Oh, nobody. Oh my God! What?
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, surely some of these are dead now, and so I was like, but nobody had them.
Oh. Kev, dodging bullets left and right. Neo in the Matrix. That's incredible. That's incredible.
So that's a plus. So, but then we get this slate, which there's a lot of different angles to attack this slate.
Yeah, Kev. I mean, we were talking pre-show about the slate. I feel like it's been a couple of weeks since we've had a slate where we can go in so many different directions. And again, usually we're recording this, as the people know, we're coming at them a little bit earlier in the week as we record on Thursdays. This week we're recording on a Friday due to you being accommodating with my schedule. But that means we have more data. That means that we have more, I don't want to say certainty, but a clearer lens of how things are going. And the way that the slate is shaping up, Kev, it's like I'm there because of the way, because of the different avenues that you can take on the slate. I'm not really vibing all that well with what is considering to be the chalk build or considering to be the more popular plays. So these are the weeks, Kev, where both you and I are mainly GPP focused. Anybody who's followed the pod, and shout out to the DJ Nation fam that's followed along with us. If you're new, you'll know that Kevin and I, we lean more GPP. That's kind of how we do. Obviously, there are some plays that we talk about that can consider to be popular and more cash game plays, and sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes the chalk just becomes what it is, and cash game plays become ones that we're focused on. But Kevin and I are always looking at angles and different ways to attack the slate. And when we have a slate like this, Kev, that's presenting itself the way that it is, we definitely have a lot to unpack. Again, we're going to be breaking down this week 15 slate. We have, some really solid games, to talk about, Kev, when we have, Baltimore and Cincy facing for the second time in 2 or 3 weeks, because they were on the Thanksgiving slate. Total for that game is, well over 50. Expect points to be had in that game, with even though it's the second time they're meeting. Kev, we've seen it over the past couple of years. Like, these games can be bonanzas when it approaches as such. And we got the dud, I feel like, earlier this year. So why can this game not really blast off and 70 total points, 80 total points, 90 total points? We've seen it before in this matchup. We got, the Buffalo and New England game is definitely going to be one exciting to talk about in that new window. It's not going to jump off of the paper, but I do think that there's merit to discuss the Washington and Giants game, with a couple pieces coming back from injury and cheap pieces to be able to fit in some of the high price guys that people are going to want. I mean, damn near you got Seattle on the slate that's implied for damn near 30 points. Jacksonville's implied for damn near 30 points. And then we get San Francisco in the late window, damn near 30 points. And then we have the bonanzas of all bonanzas, as our friend of the show, Ben Cummins, always likes to refer to these games as Detroit and Rams in that late window of 3:25 kickoff for the people who are on Central Time. And Kev, I think that's kind of, so the starting point of this week is probably game environment, right? As we get into talk about quarterbacks and that's where we usually started, right? We break it down position by position for the DJ Nation famous DJ Nation podcast. We're powered by the Fantasy Authority. At FF_authority is where you can follow the Fantasy Authority on Twitter and X. Kev, as we're looking at these games, right? I think that there's three, right? There's three that people are going to start with. It's Baltimore, Cincinnati, it's Buffalo, New England, it's Detroit and Rams, just from the standpoint of where are points expected to be had and the Vegas totals. Detroit and the Rams, we could spend the whole show talking about this game. You know me, revenge narratives and all types of narratives, like with Goff and Stafford being on either side. That's one thing. Then you got the coaches, with McVay and Campbell being able to go after it. That's another. These offenses, while Detroit, has been struggling record-wise, this is still an explosive offense. The Rams are damn near, trying to put up 30 every week. We talked about McVay trying to get Stafford the MVP. Like, he's throwing at an insane clip. So it's like, that would be the game that everybody wants to talk about. It's just how the fuck do you fit in all the pieces to that game with the way that the prices are? It makes it very tough. New England and Buffalo is an interesting one to talk about with Josh Allen traveling there. We know that Josh Allen has a chance to put slates out of reach. Who do you stack him with? You got Drake May on the other side. Who the hell do you stack him with? Do you target running backs? It just is one of those games where I don't really know where the direction to go is, but we're gonna get points. And then this Baltimore and Cincinnati game, Kev, where I'll start. I mean, I'm going back to the Lamar wall. I talked about him on the Thanksgiving pod that we did with Maddie, and it didn't pay off for the late hammer. It was a dud, but like they're just Baltimore's implied to score almost 28 points. Like, we haven't seen the explosion for this offense yet, but they are backs against the wall. Like, you got to win out basically to get in the playoffs. And who thought that we'd be talking about that with this team 15 weeks in? But that's just kind of where we stand. No, people don't want to play Lamar. It's kind of a great setup, Kev, for me when you think about it, because we don't have to play. We can stack Lamar with tight ends who are cheap, right? We'll talk about that, the tight end position, but we don't have to, do a really expensive stack with Lamar. We fit him in at his price tag, get two cheap pass catchers with him, and let's call it a day. We have on the other side, I mean, Jamar Chase is getting 30 points in this matchup. There's no T. Higgins. Joe Burrow's back. He's going to get peppered. They have a slim chance. It is a slim chance. I think it's under 10% chance, but still a chance to make the playoffs. So they're going to be gunning for this game. He's going to get force-fed the ball. He has been in this matchup in years past. So it really makes for an exciting game stack for me. I think that's where I really want to start my builds. This week is trying to focus on that game first and foremost. But I mean, that late game is going to be haunting me because of how many explosive pieces are in that game. Where are you leaning this week, Kev, and how are you attacking this slate from a quarterback perspective? Or don't even dive into a quarterback perspective in whole, Kev. Just talk to me about those three games and if you're seeing it the same way or if you're going to be looking elsewhere.
I mean, of course, you want to play that last game, the Detroit and that game, just because it's indoors. You don't have to. There's a ton of weather concerns on this slate this week because of nothing like crazy, but it's all like really cold weather that's hitting. Like, I know Chicago, it's going to be like blistering cold out there.
Yeah, just negative 20 with the wind chill, no big deal.
Yeah, I know the Chiefs game is supposed to be really cold. There's multiple games that are outside this week that are like that. The Ravens game is also that. I think it's supposed to be in the teens there. But so you have that. But the problem is, like you've already mentioned, that game is, I mean, it's really hard to really stack it up and feel really good because neither of those teams are so consolidated with where the ball goes that it makes it really hard to get to. And then the other counterpoint to that too is that you could also stack those passing games up and have the running backs be the ones that score the touchdowns. And
right.
So it's also frustrating in that way too, that you could have a golf stack, and that game could score, the Lions could score 30 points, and then golf not get there because Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs punch it in once they get inside the red zone. So you have that aspect to that game. But then then I think, okay, well, what other spots do we have? Like where can we look for spots to go? And you've already mentioned the Ravens Bengals game could easily go nuclear this week. Like that game has the potential. You have two offenses that are capable of scoring a lot of points. You have a defense in the Bengals to where like you could have this like blow up type spot because their defense is so incredibly bad. You have this divisional game as well with this game. But I also think there's some other spots that aren't being talked about that I think we could get to as well. That I don't think it's just those three games, because I think the Commanders and Giants game actually sets up to have some fireworks that could potentially have there, because you have two really bad defenses in that game. And when you have games like this where teams are out of it, nothing to play for, but then you can kind of get wild game scripts, kind of like the Browns and the Titans game last week, right? I mean, that game went off in terms of points scored in that game, and who would have thought that the Titans and Browns would have had the bonanza game that did? You had Shedeur Sanders scoring 34. Tony Pollard, of all people, who's been awful all year, scores 30 plus DraftKings points.
Unbelievable.
Like Harold Fannin went nuclear in that game. So like games like that can get weird because their defenses are so bad, and like this game feels a lot like that could be that. And it does have a pretty healthy 46.5 point total. So like, it's definitely, not like some terrible game environment. So I do like that. And then like, I think there's also the Panthers and Saints game. I think that game has the ability in the Dome in New Orleans that I know right now it doesn't have anything excited about. It has a 40.5 point total. But that game has the ability to get there as well. And so like, I think there's other spots we can look at. Even the Chiefs Chargers game, maybe that gets there. I'm less optimistic about that one, but I think there's plenty of other spots to get to than just having to talk about the game that's 55 points.
Yeah, I want pieces from that game, Kev. I do. I do want to have some exposure to that game. It's just how do we get there? So maybe we can unpack that for the people as we go along. I do think that Jackson Dart, the price tag just doesn't make sense at 5,600. With the kids been doing this year, and I know that we're monitoring his running output, his rushing output, based on the injuries that he's already seen in his young career, and I expect that they have told him to be careful and watch out for what he's doing. But he still has immense upside in this matchup. Really makes for a fun stack, whether you're going two wide receivers with him or him and Theo Johnson. At that price tag, you're able to do a lot. You mentioned Mariota on the other side too. He's definitely found ways to get there. I do think that it will be interesting to see what this Washington offense is like without Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz has been such a cog for them so far, and with him being put on IR with that just devastating injury, can these other pieces step up and do that? So that's what makes me a little bit wary about Mariota. But again, he's 5K, so take that what you will. Brock Purdy is one at 6,200 where it's like he makes for an interesting stack because there are some mid-range pieces for him that could pop in this matchup. It is against Tennessee, but we kind of seen this against Tennessee where they're supposed to lose by 13, 14 points compared to Vegas, but the passing attacks can really get there. I think it's in Brock Purdy with CMC. CMC is going to be popular. People are going to try and get him into get him into their lineups wherever they can. But to pair him with pair Brock Purdy with them, I don't know how many people will do that. And then you could there's ways where Jennings can pop off or Kittle can pop off. I think Purdy is always, kind of in the mix. He's 6,200, puts him in the awkward range, but I could see him, I could see the 49ers really having a day against Tennessee. And then, the other one that I'll look at too, which I'm not even sure how you stack it, quote unquote, but Sam Darnold and JSN. I mean, every week, right? Against Indy, as good of a start as they've had, and it's kind of a shame the injuries that they've been exposed to. But like this defense is reeling, Kev. Sneed's out. Sauce Garner they traded for, he's out. The secondary has just been gashed all over the field. Sam Darnold's 5,800. You compare him with JSN. If we get the JSN, 35, 40 burger, Sam Darnold's coming along for the ride for 25, 30 points. So you could get 80 points just there with two players. Shaheed could make for an interesting double stack there, or Barner. I know our Barner's going to be popping off in projection systems as well too, because he's cheap. So I want to keep an eye on Sam Darnold. Honestly, Kev, because of leverage off of the running back position, which I swore to myself I won't be playing Seattle running backs because they keep popping up on models and they keep failing. Kenneth Walker, namely, but I do think there are other avenues to take the slate. But it just comes down to me for what Lamar is capable of and what he could do. He's 6,400. I can't remember the last time he was cheaper than Joe Burrow, even in the matchups that they're facing, because Joe Burrow's 6,600. Lamar Jackson, like the seventh highest priced quarterback on the slate. We saw him get back to running the football as well too last week, 40 yards and a touchdown. So that's encouraging as well too, to see him do a little bit more. So hopefully he can put the team on his back. And I really do think for me that's where it's going to start. I haven't decided yet what my kind of portfolio is going to be this week, but right now I'm looking at 3 max across the board, and it'll probably be getting definitely this game, Baltimore Cincinnati exposure, most likely through Lamar, because I can easily bring it back on the Cincinnati side. I do want to keep a guy like Purdy or Darnold or some like off the wall stack but the team still is implied to score points exposure on one of the other teams. And then I at this point in time I am leaning Jackson Dart as my third quarterback. But I could probably pivot to that Buffalo and New England game, because that one's kind of just circling my mind as exposure. But there's teams that have used, I'm not writing off the ship on Kansas City. I know a lot of people have written off the ship. I think the Chargers are dealing with a couple injuries there. Is this the slate that Patrick Mahomes can get it going? He's not going to pop off in Altimos or anything. And it's like they failed. How many times has the Kansas City offense failed us, whether it be on a main slate or an island game? But like they definitely like are pretty much playing for I hate to say identity, right? Because they're the Chiefs. Like they're a dynasty, walking dynasty. It doesn't matter what they do going forward. Like they'll always be that. But this Patrick Mahomes hasn't. What is it like? He's made an AFC Championship in every year, and like now they're a threat to miss the playoffs. Like, is this the week that he can just pop off? They're interesting. Yeah, I know you just brought him up, and then the other one, Kev. We got to talk about before we would ever move on is the Philadelphia offense. Like they've been reeling, but they get this Raiders team that's absolutely abysmal. It's a home game for Philly. The pieces are affordable for Hurts if you want to double stack him. Like that's going to be an interesting one for me too, because of the way they come in price. Are there any other of these spots, Kev, that you think warrant talking about?
Yeah. So I think for one, I really I do like CJ Stroud this week, and I think he's in play.
Yeah.
First, I think both of these offense rank top 5 um and pace of play, as well as top 10 in passer rate over expectation. These are two teams that really throw the ball at a high rate, the Texans and the Cardinals. And the one concern you have is like we've seen the Cardinals, like they're the garbage time Cardinals, right? Like they just get blown out in every game, but they just keep throwing the ball. And and they've done it, against the Rams and the Seahawks and like two other like elite defenses, like great defenses, and they continue to just put up a lot of points. But as far as the Texans side is concerned, like it is a really good spot. And the things you look at here is like the Cardinals are not a defense you really worry about at like getting pressure on quarterback, because they have the 4th lowest pressure rate this year. And Stroud is very pressure sensitive. Stroud averages 27 DraftKings points against teams that they get pressure below 35%. And so, and I mean, if you look at this year, you have 2 games, week 5 and week 8, against 2 teams, the Ravens and the 49ers, that get absolutely no pressure on quarterbacks. And he scored 25 and 28 DraftKings points in both those games. And so, like, I think Stroud makes a lot of sense as a clear stacking partner with Nico Collins. And so, Stroud's only 5,200. It's a home matchup. That's another feather in his cap at home. Stroud has been like, it's like 200 and almost 70 passing yards per game and almost 2 passing touchdowns per game in his career at home versus on the road. It's a good matchup against the Cardinals, a Cardinals defense that absolutely reeling. And honestly, it's incredible leverage off of the running back that we'll talk about in a little bit. I like Stroud a lot as a pay down option at 5,200. I like Tyler Shook. Never thought, but I mean, he has played really well the last 3 games. If he scored our last 4 games, 3 of his last 4 games, he's put up 19 or more DraftKings points. Last week, we saw him have 7 carries, 55 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the thing to remember about him is, like, this is a player who coming out this year ran a 4.640. They're now doing design runs with him, and he's $4,900. Again, easy stacking partners with him, with Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson, where the ball goes. And so I think Tyler Shook, it makes a lot of sense too with the $4,900 range against the Panthers, and at home inside the dome. So again, no weather concerns here. And I like both of those, like 2 really good pay down options. I think Mariota is also in the conversation because obviously he is somebody that can pick up yards on the ground. And he's averaging 18.3 DraftKings points per game in the games that he started this year. And so, like, I think the upside is certainly there. Rushing upside is certainly there. And the Giants allow 3rd most DraftKings points to quarterbacks this year. So, like, really good spot here for Mariota. Again, we know that he is going to hyper target Terry McLaurin. That's what he does. 2 weeks ago, we saw it against the Broncos, where he had, I think it was 15 targets in that game. And that was a game that he didn't play and run all the routes. And so I really like that spot for Mariota and Terry McLaurin. I think it's another really good stack. So there's really good, cheap quarterbacks to stack here. Now, another one I think you brought up that I totally agree with you on is Brock Purdy, because the Titans have allowed, I think it's 7 straight quarterbacks to reach over 20 DraftKings points against them. And so they've become an ultimate pass funnel. And we'll talk, I mean, I guess I can just break it up now as there isn't to hold it back, but they've actually been really good against the run in recent weeks. This is definitely not as much of a spot that you would have wanted to have targeted. Since week 9, they actually allow the 3rd fewest yards per carry, the 3rd fewest explosive run rate allowed. Their missed tackles forced is best in the league. Their yards before contact is elite. Like, they have actually turned things around in the rushing department. And so, am I saying that, like, I wouldn't play Christian McCaffrey? That's not necessarily what I'm saying, but like, I will say that, like, against the run, they have been much better versus when it comes to the pass, they have just been gashed by everybody they played, most notably Shedeur Sanders, who just went absolutely nuclear against them. And so I do think, like, a Brock Purdy and Juwan Jennings or George Kittle, for that matter, makes a lot of sense. And I think it's a one way you could go. And Christian McCaffrey right now is drawing to be like the 2nd highest owned running back on the slate. And so I do like Brock Purdy. It's a little bit of leverage off Christian McCaffrey. If you don't stack him with him, I think you could put him with him. I'm not saying you can't, but so I like Purdy a lot. And then as the pay up options go, I do agree with you with Lamar Jackson. I think we might have seen Lamar Jackson might be back because last week was the first game since week 4 that he even had over 40 rushing yards. Previous to that, he was under 30 rushing yards, I think, in every game but one. And so I think that was a big plus. And we have to remember the last time these 2 teams faced, there was a lot of flukiness involved of what happened with Lamar Jackson. He should have had a passing touchdown to Isaiah Likely. He dropped it at the 1-inch line.
Dropped it, yeah.
So he should have had a touchdown there. That would have changed the outlook. He also had a wide open Mark Andrews that the ball got tipped before he was able to hit him for another touchdown. Like, it was just bad luck in that game of things that happened to him. And so, like, I do agree.
Weird games on the other side too. I mean, Burrow had like a couple tip turnovers as well. So yeah, it was just weird all around for those 2 teams.
Yeah, so, like, I definitely think Lamar is in play at $6,400, so I do like that call as well. I think the one spot that could end up making or breaking the slate is that New England Buffalo game, because I think there's a
Mhm.
shot where that game doesn't get off the way that we think it does, and maybe it's a little because this is a huge game for both these teams. Um, Obviously, if the Bills want any chance of possibly being able to win the division, which I find it probably highly unlikely, but it's also huge for the Patriots and the fact that they're trying to pace with the Broncos to get the number one seed as well. So like, there's a lot of implications with this game. But what worries you is like, do both these offenses just get really run heavy and just not try to really open things up and throw the ball? Because like you have
Yeah.
to like for Josh Allen, like super Josh Allen to come out, like you have to build a early lead and put them in a hole and put him to where he has to put the team on his back. And that's where you get that guy to show up. Because if not, if they are allowed to just run the ball, then that's what they will do. And, things will not open up for Josh Allen because that's really been more Josh Allen this year. He's been much more boom or bust, like 37 last week, 17 the week prior to that, 10 prior to that, 47. Like that's really what you need. If you could get that,
Mhm.
then yes, he's going to break this entire slate. But I'll say when it comes to the Patriots are missing, Milton Williams, who's their, big defensive big defensive lineman they signed this offseason. He's out. Since they've lost him, their run defense has been absolutely dreadful. And again, that's exactly what the Bills want to do. They would just want to be able to run the ball. And so that does worry me with the fact of like, does that game get there or does the passing attack get there? And so that's the only spot that really like kind of worries me. As far as
Right.
the Lions game goes, I agree with you. I think Jared Goff makes the most sense because he's $900 cheaper. Um, but I
Yeah.
also think maybe just getting like if you wanted to go with the Rams side, I think you go Stafford. You could make a case for whether it's Devontae Adams or Puka. You could go either way, but I also like Colby Parkinson. I think as like a
Oh
triple
yeah.
stack that probably lower the price of the stack a little bit.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to hear you come around. Funny that a week change can do. Last week it was Puka has to get X amount of points to really hurt you, and he goes out there and he does just that.
Hey,
Cav,
we
when
have we
we
haven't got to wide receivers. I was going to give you your flowers. You try to come out here. I would say, hey, you were right. I was not as excited about Puka Nacua, and wouldn't fate would have it that he goes out and scores 2 touchdowns and has a huge game. I think it happened the last time too with JSN when he went nuclear and scored 2 touchdowns. I
yeah,
made the same argument, and you were like, no, you can play him, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then he had a huge game. So
that was JSN against Tennessee. So I mean, even more merit to talk up the Purdy doubles and Purdy passing attack without going to Christian McCaffrey. So yeah, no, I mean, those are the fun ones, Kev. When you can see an angle and take advantage of it. Didn't take advantage of it too much, not enough last week, but it was a decent week. Kev, let's talk about these running backs this week because this is the week where I really feel like running back might win it, might win it for people this week. The way that things are shaping up, we got Woody Marks, who, depending on where you look, and there's a ton of projection systems that are out there. Anywhere that you look, granted that it's a viable resource, is going to have Woody Marks as chalk. Woody Marks might be one of the more popular plays on this slate, Kev. He's 5,600, I believe, this week on DraftKings. There's no Nick Chubb. They're going against Arizona. The Houston Texans are implied for almost 28 points, 4 touchdowns, which is not something that we've seen with this team for quite some time. And people are starved for value, Kev, on the slate to be able to fit in some of these high price studs that are going to want to be targeted. A lot of the Christian McCaffreys. You got Jahmyr Gibbs, who is in that late game, who people could target. Two of the wide receiver. I mean, first of all, Jamar Chase and Puka, at the wide receiver position. Then you have JSN. All of those wide receivers are priced at 8,100 and above. So if you want to fit 2 of those guys in, if you want to fit Amon-Ra in at 7,900, you need cheap value at the running back position. This is the best that people can do at this point in time. So at 5,600, I expect him to be one of the more popular plays. I know you have some thoughts about that. I get it from an on paper standpoint. If I'm doing three max, I have to have exposure to one, but to put him on two of three would I'd really be hard pressed to do. Makes me feel very uncomfortable to target a guy like that. Another popular running back this week is probably going to be Kenneth Walker for the same reason. 5,600 teams implied to score damn near 29 points going against an indie team that is hurting all across the board. And so you just fit in Kenneth Walker. I mean, these 5K running backs are going to pop off because of people wanting to get, high pay up elsewhere. I don't think I shouldn't say that. I think in GPPs, you're not going to see hardly any ownership on guys like Saquon Barkley, who comes in at 7,100 against the Raiders. It's a home matchup. They're implied, there's Vegas has them by double-digit favorites. How long has it been since we've seen a Saquon pop off? I think he's interesting in GPPs. Derrick Henry, 7,300 against the Cincinnati team, like playing him with Lamar is definitely a way to get good leverage on the field. You hope all the touchdowns go that way. I'm circling, it's going to be harder for me to click on Saquon based on what's going on in Philly. But Derrick Henry is one that really stands out to me at 7,300, where I expect his ownership to be, nowhere near what it should normally be on a slate like this. So he has some interest for me. I think the other, which I think he'll become more popular than he is right now. I'm not sure where you're seeing him at, Kev, but Tyrone Tracy at 5,500. Now that we have Jackson Dart back in the mix, I mean Tracy, and this is your boy, Kev. So if you have feelings, I'll let you wax poetic on him. But for me, it just comes down to he's a $5,500 running back in a good position in a game environment that's probably I'd probably say the fourth game environment that I'd want to target on the slate that doesn't have a 50-point total. This is where my mind's going to go next. Jackson Dart's expected to be popular. We've seen running backs pop off, in good games that Jackson has had this year. And at 5,500, it makes a ton of sense to me. I like getting exposure there. I really want to like Travion Henderson a little bit more at 6,100 against Buffalo, but it just is they've had a hard time. They've had a hard time establishing, the run and just with Stevenson still being there, that just makes me worried a little bit. Kev, we talked pre-show about Ashton Genty. He's at 5,800. You kind of alluded that to me and brought that price tag up because I was like, I'm interested in Genty, but I just expect him to be in that 6K range because that's where he's been. Now he's at 5,800 going against this Philly team that's kind of been reeling, even though they're double-digit dogs. The Raiders are like, they got to get they said they're going to get the ball to their best players. And like, if it's not Brock Bowers, it's got to be Genty. He really has had, a pretty solid floor when you look at if you just go through his game logs and look at the touches that he's been seeing. They're definitely trying to keep him involved. So if the Raiders can somehow, keep in this game, and even if they're not in the game, so to speak, like we can still expect them to kind of get force fed at 5,800. That just seems like a price tag that I'm going to be, clamoring towards to be able to find some value here. The Detroit running backs, Kev, before I toss it to you, Gibbs is 8,800. If we know what Gibbs is capable of, I absolutely love this kid. Like, he's so explosive and it's so fun. It's just like at 8,800, I can't justify for myself playing him as a one-off. He's interesting to me if I'm playing Jared Goff to attack it that way. I'd probably be more willing to play him on a Jared Goff team than on a Matthew Stafford team, but he's liable to break any slate. David Montgomery, he's not going to pop at all. I wish he was a little bit cheaper. I think he's like in the 6K range. If I'm not mistaken, he needs to be a little bit cheaper than that for me to have interest in. But like the way this offense kind of sets up, like the Detroit running backs are just kind of always in play. I just don't know on three teams that I get there, but I think they're interesting GPP plays. How are you attacking the slate, Cav, from a running back perspective? Talk to the people.
Yeah, I think first, I just want to hit on Woody Marks because this is one that we talked about. I think you kind of talked about it, but
Here
Like
he goes.
we talked about this before the show, and
Here he goes.
I don't understand why he's chalk. Like, well, let me phrase that. Like, I can understand. I guess I can't because they're playing the Cardinals. I understand the matchup, but Woody Marks has legitimately been awful. Like, he has not been good, and like he's been getting a true workhorse running back role. Like, I know that, like, oh
Mhm.
well, Nick Chubb's out, cool. Like, he's still been getting a true workhorse role like the last month. Like over the last month, he's playing 70% of the snaps. He has the third highest market share of the rush attempts in the backfield of any running back in the league, and he's done nothing with them, like nothing. Like, and so like it just doesn't make any sense to me that like a player like this who doesn't have an involvement in the passing game is going to be like 35% owned. Like, I think there's better players that are around him that make more sense. Like, I understand we're starved for value on the slate, and like maybe we get Emmanuel Wilson opens up and
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs
Yeah.
doesn't play. Like, that changes the entire
Good
slate
call.
because
Good call.
like that could happen. But like if we get that, obviously Emmanuel Wilson's 4,400. Like he's gonna be like
Good
50
call.
plus percent owned. And so like yeah, like I would be about that, even though it's not a great matchup against the Broncos. But you know, but like other than that, like if that doesn't happen, I just don't have any interest or that much interest in playing Woody Marks because like I already said, these two teams are like or just the Texans alone are one of the top passing teams in the league. Like their pass rate over expectation is extremely high, and so like it would worry me. It basically makes Woody Marks completely touchdown dependent, and so like can he score a touchdown? Sure, like but my thing is that like I think there's better leverage off of him than just playing Woody Marks because well,
Mhm.
we're desperate for value, like you've already mentioned. Tyrone Tracy, I think, is a good value. Like he's back, he's practicing full this week. He has scored 17 or more DraftKings points in two of the last games that he was healthy. So incredible matchup against the Commanders. The Commanders' run defense is horrible. They're also going to be without Bobby Wagner, I believe, in that game too. Old Bobby Wagner, but he still is getting it done. But like he's not going to be playing either. But he's 5,500, so he's $100 cheaper. Devin Neal is seeing a true workhorse role, and involved in the passing game there as well. And he's 5,300, and the Panthers are just as bad of a matchup, against running backs that the Cardinals are. The Cardinals allow the fifth most DraftKings points. The Panthers allow, I think, the seventh most DraftKings points to running back. So, like, I just think there's other running backs that are in the same range that I think provide just as much value. And so I'm not going to blindly. And I've been one like this year, like I think like we've talked about, like going with chalk this year has made sense because it's usually good chalk, and I feel like this is bad
Mhm.
chalk. I feel like this is simply we're looking for a value. It's it's the Cardinals. We're just going to play Woody Marks, but he just hasn't been good. The dude's average, like I said, over the last 4 weeks, 9 DraftKings points per game. Like that is not good. And he's had plus matchups. He had a game. You have the Buffalo Bills, who are one of the
Yeah.
worst run defenses in the league. He scores 7.9 DraftKings points in that game. Against Tennessee, he scored 6.1 DraftKings points in that game. Against Indy, where they led for most of that game, 7.7 DraftKings points. It's just hard for me to get excited about a running back that I don't feel like has an incredibly high ceiling to get there. And so I would rather bet against him, paying off and, being able to beat out 35-40% of the field, and being able to find other cheaper running backs. And you already talked about Ashton Jennings, another one, like 5,800. The Raiders are without Jalen Carter. That is huge for that defensive line and their ability to stop the run. And so Ashton Jennings, I think, makes some sense. Yes, the Raiders' offensive line is still absolutely dreadful, but they have been trying to get him more involved in the passing game. Last week was obviously not great, but you also have concerns just with the Eagles' offense in general, who hasn't been able to do anything all year, or not, I should say all year, but recently they have just been really bad. And so, like, this is a team that, like, could the Raiders? We've seen the Raiders keep games close recently. Like, it's not like every game they played they've just been absolutely
Mhm.
hammered. And so, I think there's some ceiling here with Ashton Jennings, and he is $300 or $200 cheaper or more expensive than Woody Marks. So I think like in the 5K range, I think there's multiple running backs that we could get to here that I think just makes some more sense than what going blindly leading ourselves to Woody Marks. As far as the more expensive, probably my favorite 6K running back is Travis Etienne this week. A running back that nobody's talking about. He's like 7th or 8th in ownership percentage right now, and it's an incredible spot for him. So Travis Etienne, I mean, this year Travis Etienne is always underrated. He has been pretty much since he's been in the league. Everybody always wants to replace him, whether it was Tank Bigsby or whether it was now this year with Bashal Tuden. Like everybody wants to replace Travis Etienne, but he continues to get it done. This year, he's racked up the 10th most rushing yards. He has the 9th most rushing touchdowns. He's averaged 20 DraftKings points in games that they have won. So he is very game script dependent because in their losses, he only averages 11 DraftKings points in those games. And this is a game where the Jaguars are 13.5-point favorites. They have the 4th highest implied team total. And then on top of that, the Jets on the season allow 112 rushing yards and over a touchdown per game to running backs. But since trading Quinnen Williams, that has ballooned to 154 rushing yards per game to opposing running backs and the 3rd most DraftKings points per game to running backs. So Travis Etienne, he's 6,500. I think he's an incredible play in that range. So I love Travis Etienne. I'm going to have a ton of him. I think Chase Brown is also really interesting, especially without T. Higgins. But Chase Brown, he's 6,700. Samaje Perine is back. But regardless of that, he's involved in the passing game. Joe Burrow is still going to look to check down to him. And so I do like Chase Brown a lot, too, at 6,700. I think that is a little bit too cheap for the role that he provides. It is involved in the passing game. Saquon Barkley, I like that call, too. Last week, against the Chargers, he finally had another breakout spot, over 100-yard rushing, a touchdown. I feel like they stopped beating him as much as they should have. But $7,100 against the Raiders, like that. Derrick Henry, if they could get out to a lead, I think that's where Derrick Henry really will shine, because that's been the problem. Because the last time they two faced, Derrick Henry averaged 6 yards per carry. Like, that wasn't really the problem. It was they fell behind. And so he's extremely game script dependent. If they fall behind, then he is going to get game scripted out. But if they can be the one that goes out and gets the early lead and gets on top, the Derrick Henry can smash. I mean, this is Derrick Henry time. Like we've already said, it's going to be in the teens in that game. This team already can't tackle, right? And now you have big ass Derrick Henry trying to bring him down. Like $7,300 Derrick Henry. I think this could be an eruption spot for Derrick Henry, and I like Derrick Henry at 7,300. And then lastly, I think James Cook is the other one that I really like. Cook is, he's a little more expensive. He's 8K, but we've seen this before. This is a really good spot. The Patriots run defense is taking a really big hit with losing, their Milton Williams, their interior defensive tackle. Their run defense has really fallen off since that's happened. And so I think James Cook is a team that really wants to run the ball. And so I think James Cook also, I think is a pretty solid play at 8K. As far as the top tier guys, I kind of already said it with Christian McCaffrey. I'm not saying Christian McCaffrey is a bad play, because I'll never say that because of his workload. But it does give you some pause because, like I've said, how good the Titans have been against the run. Where he comes involved, where he, I think, would smash, right, and be the you had to have him type play, isn't on the ground. I think it's going to have to be through the air. And if he's heavily involved in the passing game, then yes, then I think Christian McCaffrey will make a lot of sense at 9K. But that would be the concern there, because the Titans have been really good against running backs since week 9.
Yeah, that's an interesting point there, Kev. That's why I like pairing him with Brock Purdy. I feel like, because we've seen in the past that these McCaffrey smash games are when he's absolutely acting as a wide receiver, getting that usage out of the backfield from a pass catching standpoint on a full point PPR site, and that's where we want. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is going to pop off the page for people this week. He just is. He's 9K going against Tennessee. Like, what's not to love there? So in the price tag feels just right. So I expect him to be popular. It's just like, if I want to capture all that upside, I think that's where I start playing him with Brock Purdy and somebody else, because that's really where he can tend to to tend to break the slate. And then, shout out to you, Cap, for bringing up, kind of the underlying elephant in the room here, which is, Josh Jacobs being on this injury report. If he ends up missing, like, Emmanuel Wilson is the play of the week. Like, we saw this before. I was actually lower on Emmanuel Wilson when he was, thought to have the lead back role. And even though it is on the road against Denver, Kev, like, this dude will see every touch that he can, and he even catches passes out of the backfield too at 4,400. It's just he's not priced where he should be for Jacobs being questionable. So yeah, he would become a slam dunk play and really provide people the value. That would then nuke Woody Marks' ownership, right? Where we wouldn't be dealing with this, tomfoolery at this point in time. And then it would really become interesting on what you see people doing from builds, because you start with a $4,400, not a free square, but, almost close to it, piece that you could build your lineups around. One other player I wanted to ask you about, Kev, which I've written them off. I've written off this backfield. I said I won't target them no matter, what optimizers say or what projection systems say. But I think we will get Kenneth Walker at 5,600, popular yet again, going against this Indy team that is depleted on defense across the board, right? Like, it should be a spot where, he could, pay off people some dividends off of the 14 weeks that we've been chasing a Kenneth Walker output, because it feels like he's been talked about since week one of having a breakout season, and we still have yet to see it. But is this the week that he gets 2 touchdowns, Kev? Is this a week that he gets 200? Is this a week that he gets a buck and 3? Does he have a Kyle Pitts outing for us to get all the people, get all the donkeys, as they're referred to in the industry, putting them in lineups? Or are we just going to get the same old with this offense, and maybe the work comes through passing? How are you treating Kenneth Walker this week?
Well, so I've chased him for like almost every week. Played him last week, played him week before, right? And the week I didn't play him was against the Rams, and he scored 20. I'm not playing him this week, so everybody should just load up on him, because I'm sure he's going to have a legacy game today.
Yep.
Or this was on Sunday, because like I've just been chasing him because he's just too cheap. He's eventually just going to break off a 60-yard touchdown, but he doesn't do it. And then you just continually see Charbonnet come in and steal touchdowns away from him once they get to the red zone. And so, I'm not playing him. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to let myself. I'm just going to set a rule on and say no Kenneth Walker, and then Kenneth Walker's going to go out and have 30. So that's just the way that it works.
Without question.
Those are the rules. But yeah, I can't do it. I'm tired of chasing. I'm tired of just wasting, killing good lineups with Kenneth Walker in there. Like, it wouldn't even be bad if he was like scoring like 15, 16 DraftKings points regularly. Like, the dude's scoring like 10 and 3 and 8 and like every week. And so like he's basically killing lineups. I know he's cheap. I'm not doing it. But again, because I'm not doing it, that means, because the last time I didn't do it at all, I had no Kenneth Walker. It's the game that he scored 20. So just everybody else load up on Kenneth Walker. You guys profit. I'm going to take one for the team this week and let everybody else win. And I'm going to lose this week because I didn't play Kenneth Walker. But yeah, I can't do it. I mean, I'm not doing it against the Colts, but
I can't do it either. But it's bound to happen, Kev. It's bound to happen that we're going to get a 30-point performance out of this guy, because that's just the way it works. That's just the way the football gods make it happen. But yeah, couldn't move on from running back position without talking about Kenneth Walker, who I expect to, at least at this point in time, without the Emmanuel Wilson kind of news, he'll be one of the more popular plays on the slate with Woody Marks to be able to get some pseudo value. Let's talk about wide receiver, Kev, because if you're looking for value on the slate, you know why, because the wide receiver position is littered with plays at the top. If you could fit 2 guys in a lineup, Kev, like, please do so. 2 of these 3 guys, of Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, like, they're just gonna pop. They're just gonna pop. In any projection system that you're looking at, even with their price tags being where they are, Jamar Chase with no T Higgins, what needs to be said. Puka Nakua, based on the week that he, is just coming off with, in the schematic matchup that is Detroit, with the way that their secondary has been depleted and the way that Matthew Stafford has been slinging the rock, you can see why he's popping off. And then it's Jackson Smith and Jigba every week, in the offense that he's playing in, and he's 8,600. And I feel like he'll be the one to be squeezed, right, Kev? It's like, why people are playing Jamar Chase. He's going to be, a click in lineups because of no T. Why Puka is going to be in lineups because of the volume that he sees. But like Jackson Smith and Jigba is right there to be able to do so. And then, you have Amon-Ra, who's at 7,900, who I never play. I never play this guy as a one-off. I sometimes don't even play him in Jared Goff stacks when Sam Laporta is healthy, because of how they could spread the ball out. But he's viable, to go out and score 40 points damn near. I do like him this week, Kev, when I'm playing my Jared Goff stacks, to be able to say, okay, can I get Amon-Ra? Can I get Puka in the lineup? Hope that Amon-Ra outscores Jamar Chase and maybe go, a cheaper route with the Bengals, which, kind of feels almost like wish casting, but, it is possible. And if I am playing Jared Goff, I do want exposure to Amon-Ra this week. He came back, off of the injury that he had, and just went right back into the role that he has, especially without Sam Laporta being there. You can see why there's merit to playing him. Devontae Adams is just always going to be a guy that you think about, especially in the game environment that's expected to happen on Sunday. The problem is, Kev, that it's like I see people talking in the chat about him being on the injury report, which is key. We definitely want to monitor that. But two, it's like, even when he does score he has 2 touchdowns. I think he had a 3 touchdown game this year where he still didn't crack 30 DK points. So it's like, he's not really killing you necessarily if you don't play this guy. It's just the touchdown volume is so infuriating for when you play Puka on the other side, because it directly, affects what his output is going to be. But, we're going to be interesting to see how people attack that game. To talk about a couple quick hitters, Kev, we both talked about Purdy. I think Juwan Jennings, is just way too cheap at 5,200. He makes a ton of sense to be able to get you some pseudo value on this week. I do like targeting him, whether it be in Purdy stacks or even at one-offs, because I think that his role is definitely secure. A guy like Ricky Pearsall, who I think we both talked about a little bit of time. I can't believe Ricky Pearsall is still at $5,100. Like, the way that he's been putting up production, and again, he's been hurt, so that's fair. But like, he definitely does not deserve to be $100 less expensive than Juwan. So that just is something I wanted to bring up because I couldn't believe that when I saw it. Nico Collins, you brought up CJ Stroud. I mean, Nico Collins he's just due for an eruption week. I mean, this guy just feels like he has a floor of like 15 or 17 points, and the touchdowns just haven't broke his way, or he's just missing out on the 100-yard bonus or what have you. But like, one of these weeks, Kev, it's gonna line up perfectly. He's gonna go out and get 150 and 2, and at $6,700, he kind of feels almost too cheap with the work that he's seeing in this lineup. The other couple of quick hitters that I wanted to bring up to Kev were, you kind of mentioned Terry McLaurin. He's 5,400, makes a ton of sense the way that's shaping up. Jacoby Myers at 5,600. I feel like Jacoby Myers just stays kind of flat at this range, no matter what he does, no matter how he produces. And like, with Jacksonville implied to score points the way that they are, I know you brought up ETN, but like, Jacoby Myers, since joining Jacksonville, has just kind of been that dude and that cog for them to kind of keep things going. Just with him being in this price range, I feel like optimizers will try and, get him in there. We'll definitely have to pour one out for Michael Wilson at 6,600. I just don't think this is just not a week to be able to utilize them, unfortunately. And even with Harrison being out, like, it's just a tough click going against Houston. So it's kind of depressing because Michael Wilson has just kind of been plug and play for us over the past couple of weeks, and it's just like doesn't matter what have you. This is like Jerry Rice level type of production. See Calvin Johnson level type of production. What he's seeing like, but I just don't think this is the week. Other than that, Kev, there's not a lot of cheap pass catchers that are standing out to me on this week as of yet. I've yet to dive in, but one that, I think maybe you'll think of, or maybe you're thinking of, is Jaden Higgins at 4,200 with you like in CJ Stroud. I mean, he has kind of carved out a role for himself in this offense. I think that, CJ's definitely leaned on him in the games that I've watched or paid attention to, when they get in second and long or need a significant third down where he's kind of catching his stride. I know they've got another rookie there, and Noel, who's been in the mix, but it seems like as of recently, Jaden Higgins has definitely been that dude for them. So he's one at 4,200 where, if I need a cheap piece and, can't get to Nico as a one-off, I'll take the $2,000 savings and see what I can do with Higgins. Where are you looking at this week from a wide receiver standpoint, and what's shaping out to you this week?
Yeah, I mean, at the top, I think, you kind of JSN and Chase are the two that I would want. Like, the Colts are going to be without Shavarius Ward, who has another concussion. Like, I can't imagine he plays the rest of the year. This is, I think, his third concussion this year. And definitely his second, because obviously the one where he got knocked out and was placed on IR. But like but anyways, and then you still have Sauce Gardner, who's going to be out. So like we've seen this defense without those guys, and it is really bad. And so, like, I think JSN could absolutely destroy them. And so 8,600, finding a way to get to him, I think is going to be key. Jamar Chase, the other one, he absolutely crushed especially against the Ravens, and they run single high, one of the highest rates in the league, and Jamar Chase just crushes single high. And so I think Chase and JSN are the two that I really like the most. Obviously, there's no denying. I mean, Puka Nacua, hats off to you. From last week, 38, DraftKings points finally got there in the touchdown department. The volume's always there. It's just been touchdowns, right? That's killed them. And last week, the ball bounced his direction in terms of those touchdowns. But, I think some other spots, A.J. Brown, love this spot for A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown has seen 10 or more targets in 4 straight games. He's really started to put it together. And obviously, the matchup is really good. The Raiders tend to struggle, especially against the deep ball. They give up a lot of explosives. A.J. Brown, obviously one of the most explosive wide receivers in the league. So A.J. Brown, $6,800. Really like him. You already brought up Nico Collins. Nico Collins absolutely crushes, and he was kind of the guy that I talked about that you could hit here in this spot because the Cardinals run cover 4 at the highest rate in the league, and Nico Collins crushes. Only, I think it's Puka Nacua, JSN, Drake London are better at yards per route run. It's like 3.5 yards per route run for Nico. Those 4 are the only 4 that are better than he is. They run at a higher chase. So Nico Collins, 67, really like that spot for him. Chris Olave, great spot against Carolina. Carolina has been giving it up, especially through the air. But $6,200, Chris Olave, really like him. I think there's an interesting debate between Wandale and Darius Slayton because I think with Slayton, because we've seen the Commanders give up a ton of explosive plays. Darius Slayton is obviously the downfield target. And so the last time we saw this team, they targeted Darius Slayton. Wandale is back to his just running everything underneath. And you can do that as well against the Commanders for sure. Because the Commanders have like no athletic linebackers at all. And so they have nobody that can cover. And so Wandale, I think also, makes sense there. But Slayton, I think, is the one that gives me a little bit more intrigue at 4,400 because he is the deep threat. He is the guy here that takes the top off the defense. Last week against the Patriots, 2 for 41 in a score. Obviously not a huge performance. We've seen other games prior to this where he's had some big games. He's scored double-digit DraftKings points 3 of his last 4 games. There's been a couple times where he just barely missed a long touchdown as well. So, I like Slayton a lot as terms of a value play. I think Xavier Worthy actually is kind of interesting this week too, because Hollywood Brown is ruled out due to personal issues, so that's going to take him off the field. They've been utilizing him a little bit more deep, and schematically, the way the Chargers run, it also really favors Xavier Worthy as well. And so I believe it's cover 3. They run at one of the highest rate in the leagues, and Xavier Worthy's been really good against that coverage shell. So I like Xavier Worthy too at 4,500. I would probably wouldn't play him if I was doing like a single entry or a 3 entry max. I don't think I would get to him on that. But like in terms of like if you're running a 20 entry or obviously 150 max, like I would want some exposure to Xavier Worthy because I think he does make some sense here at that spot. In terms of cheap wide receivers, I think there's one that everybody's going to get to, and that's Mitch Tinsley from the Bengals with T. Higgins out. Tinsley, even the last time these two teams faced, Higgins was out, and he saw 9 targets in that game. Didn't really do anything with them, only had 2 catches, but he did see the 9 targets. So, like, there should be some interest with this spot, right? And with this game environment. And so Mitch Tinsley's $3,400, I believe. So like or $3,100, excuse me. So like if you're really looking for value, I think you could get there, and really again would kind of bring down the cost of your stack if you were going like a Joe Burrow, Higgins, or Jamar Chase stack with Tinsley. I think you could also put Gesicki in there as well. It's funny, we were on Gesicki I think 2 weeks ago. He didn't really do that much, and then last week I think it was that he went off. It's just like Taylor's oldest time, like well, week too early. It really helps out Gesicki as well with him being out. But Tinsley's 3,100, so you could look there. I think as like a really value play, $3,100 play. I think you can look there. I mean, other than that, like, I know in the chat, Richie put A.O. Maynor at 3,500. I think it's hard to get there to him because he and I've been a big like A.O. Maynor guy earlier in the year. Like I was kind of pushing him and stuff like that early in the season, but we've kind of seen Chimere DK break out and kind of be a little bit more. But like he just doesn't he's again the downfield target in this offense. Now I will say San Francisco's defense is really bad. And so he could get there. It wouldn't surprise me at all if A.O. Maynor, got there on a long touchdown because the 49ers defense is really bad. And the 49ers defense also doesn't get pressure on the quarterback, which is obviously good news. Gives Cam Ward more time to be able to get there. But it feels a little bit more thin with A.O. Maynor just in the game environment and everything else.
Yeah, that it feels thin definitely at this point, and like we talked about pretty much all show, Kev. It's like when we're starved for value, then everybody, anybody with a pulse that allows us to get some studs in our lineup will pop off on the page. But yeah, I mean, A.O. Maynor at 3,500, just go to Mitch Tinsley at 31, save the $400, and you're probably apt to get a little bit more work from him. As it's kind of interesting what's going on in Cincinnati. Just as a quick little aside, Kev, because you have T. Higgins out right with the concussion, and then Jermaine Burton's kind of off of the team now with all the things that he's been dealing with. So they are, kind of getting into that range of being thin. Tinsley's, he's been worked in a lot over the past couple of weeks. So, at 3,100, he definitely is viable and in play a lot. I feel like a lot this week. I feel like he's one of the more valuable value plays at his price tag with the way the slate's kind of shaping up right now. So yeah, they can't fault anybody for going there at all. There's really, Kev, the only thing that I want to touch on real quick before we move on to tight end position, which is probably more interesting than this, but if you're playing that New England and Buffalo game, can you even remotely go to any of these wide receivers and trust? I guess Stephon Diggs is there. I'm going to take him out of the equation. If you're not playing Stephon Diggs, how are you attacking wide receiver from that game environment?
Probably just wouldn't
Yeah.
I think he's the only one that that you would even I mean, sure, if you want to throw in Kayshon Boutte as he scores a long touchdown or something like that, sure. Like, we've seen the Bills' pass defense get a little bit exposed recently. Like, obviously, this last game, the Bengals were throwing all over them
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And so, like, but like, I just think there's probably like other options to get to.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't love that. Like, I will say the one thing, because I don't feel like we've even mentioned it, which is wild because like it's obviously been like the biggest news of the entire weekend, and I don't think we've really even hit on it for the entire week. Is Philip Rivers coming back, which is fucking wild, and we're getting 44 like out of like
Yeah.
of all the things I would not have if somebody would have like told me that Philip Rivers, who's been out of the league for 4.5 years, is now back in the NFL off a short rest on the road to have to go play in Seattle. And he looks like he's going to start. I don't think they've officially named him the starter for this week, but
It's insane.
but it looks like. But do you have any interest in any of their pass catchers? Like, do you have any interest in like a Michael Pittman or a Tyler Warren? Like, I don't have any interest in Alec Pierce because like I do not think Philip Rivers is going to be throwing the deep ball. But
No
like
chance.
I think like Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, or Tyler Warren. Like, do you have any interest in them?
I'd probably, we haven't gotten there yet, but I'd probably lean Warren the most. Pittman would be interesting, but he's 5,100, like, and Tyler Warren's 4,700. So it's like I can use that $400 maybe elsewhere. But yeah, I mean it's kind of gross, and I am interested in Sam Darnold. So I was looking at like a Sam Darnold, JSN, maybe Barner with Warren, do the tight end, double tight end thing there with Warren being only 4,700. But yeah, Philip Rivers was going to get brought up when we talk about defense and how I'm just trying to get to Seattle defense where I can. I honestly, no, it is pretty insane, Kev. Like when that got brought up, and I saw it on Twitter or X, and I'm like, this, like, are we in April? Like, is this April 1st? What's going on here? Like, I just really didn't even think that this was literally a thing that they were exploring. But hey, when you got whatever it is, like 16 kids, and you need to feed the family, like, you try and do it by any means necessary, right?
Well, I think too, we actually, it was a couple of years ago, I think, that I think they had suffered an injury. I can't remember when it was. It was a year or two ago at least. But they had talked about it, that I guess they had contacted him possibly about coming back late in the year, and it just didn't work out, and so it didn't happen. And so it's not like the first time they've done this with Philip Rivers, but it just, again, it's absolutely incredible. Like, I will say, of all the games this weekend, I am so locked in to want to watch that game. I just want to see what 44-year-old Philip Rivers is going to look like. I will say, he is one of the most legendary shit talkers there is out there. Let's listening to him, because he doesn't cuss at you. He does not cuss at all. So it's all daggum and stuff like that. But I don't know. I am intrigued to see it. But I also think it's going to end really poorly for him. Things have changed in the NFL so incredibly much, and this dude has always been a statue. And with that, but anyways, I don't want
to. This game is in Seattle too, Kev. If he goes into Seattle and wins, where do you put that? On the list of accomplishments for upsets, I guess
it would have to be up there. I mean, for a quarterback to come off, he was coaching high school football a week ago to come now playing in the NFL. And he definitely looks like he's put on a few pounds. Who could blame him?
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, he is. I don't know if you saw the Madden. He looks like he's 270 pounds and the little mock-ups since they put him back in. But and it's shocking too. I could not believe that DraftKings put him at $4,900. I thought he was going to be straight 4K.
Shout out to DraftKings, man.
Would you have had interest in him if he was 4K?
If he's at 4K, I probably still wouldn't have, Kev, just because of the way that I play. If I was running 150, yeah, but because I only play a couple teams, I probably wouldn't. On the road against Seattle, at home, maybe a different story. But yeah, not playing against 12 in Seattle, still at 4K, I couldn't do it. But
would you rather be at home with 10 kids or get smacked by 300-pound linemen for 2 hours?
Well, yeah, 10 kids or 16 kids, whatever it is for Phillip, it's crazy that he's even in this situation. But yeah, Kev, that leads us to tight end and defense as we close it out for the DJ Nation fam. Shout out to the DJ Nation fam rocking with us. It's the DJ Nation podcast coming at you, powered by the Fantasy Authority at FF_authorities, where you can find us on Twitter and X. Kev, tight end is it's pay down week for me at tight end yet again. Like I said, I mean, if we got to pour one out for Michael Wilson, with what he's been seeing, we definitely got to pour one out for Trey McBride at 7,400, which it's just because of the Houston matchup. Like this Houston defense is just so legit. I feel like they'll be able to get after it against Arizona this week. That's what I'm banking on at least, but it's football, anything could happen. But at 7,400, I just can't get there with Trey McBride this week. 5,900, Brock Bowers is. I wish it wasn't as tough for me as it is, but just the way that I'm kind of building lineups at this state in the game, it is. Maybe if we have a little bit more value open up later on this weekend, I could get there. 5,400, George Kittle's really calling out to me. I mean, we talked about Purdy a lot and pairing him with Jennings, and I really want to double stack him with George Kittle. That doesn't include Christian McCaffrey as well, too. But I could go San Francisco Onslaughts pretty much all day. But George Kittle being at 5,400 against this defense is really going to stand out. Other than that, I'm not really feeling the 4K range until we get down to Dalton Schultz and Harold Fannin and then Mark Andrews, who's actually 3,900. But let's just put him at 4K. I mean, all three of those guys are extremely in play. I absolutely love the Baltimore tight ends there. Mark Andrews is 3,900. Isaiah Likely's 3,400. They let Dawson Knox, Kev, with Dalton Kincaid being active. That's the Cincinnati defense. That is, put up a damn near career game against them. I think what do you have 6 and 84 or something like that. Any tight end is live against them. Like you mentioned, Isaiah Likely, like we'd be talking about him extremely differently this week if that touchdown stood. And he just didn't, fumble before he made it in. So, and then he had the touchdown called back, where he gets 3 feet down, or it looks like he gets 2 feet down to 3 feet against Pittsburgh. Like he just had a rough go, but like 3,400 Isaiah Likely in this matchup, sign me up. Even Mark Andrews 3,900, sign me up. I'm gonna double tight end with Lamar. I just know it. But that's just how it's going. Harold Fannin, it might be every week with this dude with the way Shador has been targeting him. He's only 4K, feels too cheap. I think, then Njoku's out, and they got, Tillman's not going to be there as well for Cleveland. So there's a lot of pieces that are going to be missing that could get Harold Fannin the ball. And then Dalton Schultz just continues to find his way, into putting up some decent scores with CJ Stroud being in the mix. Other two tight ends. Well, there's a couple tight ends, I guess, that we could talk about, Kevin. That's why I'm paying down this week, because it's kind of interesting. Kobe Parkinson he's 3,200. He lets you get exposure to that late game in an interesting way, and he's definitely been worked in over the past couple of weeks. AJ Barner at 3,200. I kind of mentioned him in Sam Darnold stacks. He's gonna pop off, I think, for projection systems just because of his price tag and what he allows you to do in lineups is interesting. Mike Gesicki at 3,300 is interesting. With no T. Higgins, we could talk about Mitchell Tinsley and being a good value play, but we could just go to Gesicki, who's going to be, pretty much was chalk on the Thanksgiving slate, and it just didn't pan out as such. But he finds himself in a similar matchup against Baltimore yet again. So that's an intriguing one. And then before I toss it to you, Kev, this Theo Johnson guy, with now we got Jackson Dart back at the helm, and Theo Johnson, is really putting up some decent scores early on the year when Jackson Dart was just getting going and carved out a role for himself. Now he's back in the mix. He's only 3,500. So I definitely want to keep him in mind too. Kev, where are your leans taking you for tight end this week, and what do you plan on doing as it stands right now going into Sunday's main slate?
I think it's this feels like a really pretty solid two tight end slate. Like I think there's quite a few options to go with here, and if you're wanting to get value, I think tight end is the way to do it this week. Kincaid came back last week against Cincinnati for 41 on a score. He's kind of been the key to this passing offense this year, and the Patriots have struggled against tight ends pretty much all year. He's 4,500. I like him quite a bit. I think he's certainly somebody that I'm going to have interest in. And then I'm surprised that Harold Fannin isn't looking to draw more ownership coming off the game he's coming off of. 4K for him. He is the clear favorite target for Shedeur Sanders coming off a huge game. Yeah. David Njoku's out. Like I just would have thought that he was going to draw, 25% ownership or something like that on the slate. And I mean, he's the third highest, but it's only 11% ownership right now. Right now, George Kittle and Theo Johnson look like they're drawing more ownership than he is. And that doesn't really – I mean, I like Theo too. I think Theo Johnson's also a good play at 3,500. He's cheaper. I get it. Like, I have no problem with getting to Theo Johnson whatsoever. But, like, I just thought Harold Fannin was going to be over 20%. Like, it's just an incredible spot. And so, really, if that stays the same, we don't get much change between now and, Sunday, then, yeah, I'm going to be playing a lot of Harold Fannin. As far as Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely is concerned, again, I thought Isaiah Likely was going to be trending to be one of the highest tight ends on the slate because he's been playing much better in recent weeks. As you alluded to, he's had some bad luck with just touchdowns and stuff like that. But the upside is certainly there. He's 3,400, and this we already know. Like this is just the flow chart play of the week. Like anytime you get a tight end, especially the tight end 2. Against the Bengals, we go for it. We saw Patty Fry have a monster game against them. Isaiah Likely should have had a monster game, but he dropped the touchdown right there at the half-inch line. Should have been a 20-point DraftKings week for him. And so I don't get why he's not more popular. I see the question here: can you play Andrews and Likely together? I think you could. I don't know how well. I don't think they correlate that well together because they tend to split a lot of stuff, and then a lot of times they will ask Andrews to stay in to block, where you put Andrews more out in line. I am by no means saying that you can't, play both of them together, because I think you could, especially because I think there's the real shot of what you're probably going to see if DJ Turner. Shadowing Zay Flowers, and that dude has been incredible this year. And so, if you wanted to get there, who else are they throwing the ball to at that point? So that I guess the more I talk through it, I think it's in play to play both of them. You just get all the points from this spot. Gesicki, we talked, and you already mentioned it. We talked about this. In games without T. Higgins last year, Gesicki absolutely crushed in those games. And so, Gesicki is back in play. I'm not shying away from it. We were on it apparently at 1 week too early, and then we got off it last week against Buffalo, and he drops 20.6 DraftKings points. But AJ Barner, I think, is a really interesting play because Elijah Arroyo's out. Arroyo is running 41% of the routes, and so that really kind of opened things up for AJ Barner, I think, now to really see a really big uptick in routes and targets and stuff like that, depending on how this game goes. I think that's the big part of it. If this game doesn't really take off and the Seahawks just absolutely destroy the Colts, then you probably don't have as much excitement to play them. And then if you're looking for a gross tight end play of the week,
here we go.
I got to have one every week. I got to give you one. And
is it Jets?
It is not Jets.
Okay.
It is not the Jets. You talked about the why I would be in on this, but it is 2024 second round pick out of Kansas State, Ben Sinnott. So with Zach Ertz out, right? You have the situation now where Ben Sinnott is $2,700. John Bates is $2,900, but I think John Bates he's much more of just the blocking tight end. He's not a receiving tight end. Ben Sinnott is that guy. He is much more of a pass catching tight end. He is a very, very athletic tight end coming out of college. Very highly thought of tight end. A lot of people had him as their number 2 tight end in last year's class. Again, he was a second-round pick, so he has the draft pedigree. And again, really good spot against the Giants, really good value here. He's a really solid value play. He hasn't really had the opportunity, but I mean, if you just want to talk about a narrative, the last time we saw Zach Ertz when he played for another team that went down for the year, there was another second-round pick tight end that was behind him that finally got to explode, and his name was Trey McBride. I'm not saying Vincent is Trey McBride, but
Oh,
we've seen this play
jeez.
out before with Zach Ertz, where he was in front of the incumbent tight end. So Ben Sinnott, $2,700. If you're looking
That's
for
crazy.
value, I don't hate it.
I can't believe you just put Ben Sinnott in the fucking same vein and atmosphere.
What's different about it? He's a second round pick, was drafted last year in the second round. Like I said, like it's not like this guy was a 7th round pick or something. He was a high second round pick. He had Zach Ertz blocking him. It's exactly the same thing. Trey McBride was a second round pick.
Let's see what Ben Sinnott's got. Let's see what Ben Sinnott's got. That is absolutely incredible. I love it. I thought you might be going like Jeremy Ruckert or something like that with the Mason Taylor injury, but no, you come in off of your throne there, off of the Santa couch, and come up with Ben Sinnott. Not even thought to be a tight end, I don't believe, Kev, when he was first coming in, if I'm not mistaken. So could have some pass catching chops there. Let's see if Mariota can feed him the rock. That is phenomenal. Kev, we got defense to close out the podcast with the people before we build out the Millie Maker team and send the DJ Nation fam on their merry way. Are you just answer this question, Kev? Are you playing anybody outside of the Seahawks, Texans, or Saints?
Oh yeah, I think the
Can
Packers
you answer the question?
Yeah, I think the Packers are definitely live at 2,800 against the Broncos. The Broncos offense there's definitely been times this year this offense is just not looking good at all. This game could definitely be low scoring. And so I do like the Packers at 2,800. I think that is probably a bit too cheap of a price tag there for them. And like I don't necessarily hate the Browns against the Bears. Like Myles Garrett going for the sack record.
He's getting close.
So like I don't hate them at $2,700 against the Bears. That game feels kind of gross as well. Other than that, maybe the Chiefs at $3,300. Like, then that's mainly because I don't know like how well that Herbert can throw the ball at this point, and that's the one thing the Chiefs have done really well. And the only thing they really want to do is run the ball. The Chiefs have just been incredible all year against stopping the run, and so they're going to force them to try to throw the ball against them. And so, like, if they can't do it, obviously the Chiefs' defense looked incredibly way better. We know they're going to be bringing a ton of pressure on them. And their offensive line is absolutely cheeks. Like it is absolutely lost that offensive line. And so, like, I mean, we could see Herbert get sacked, 4 or 5 times in that game. So, like, I don't hate the Chiefs either at cost of where they're at. But I think those would be the ones that I would look at, not name those you just mentioned.
Yeah, I think I mean for me it's wheels up for Texans and Seahawks, who are only a couple $100 more than where the Chiefs come at, but they're just in such incredible spots that they absolutely love it. But I do think there's merit to if you had to pay down, going to the Saints, who are only 2,500 against Carolina at home, that definitely has some merit to it. Go ahead, Kev.
What about the Raiders?
Yeah, Raiders at Stone Men. Yeah, I could see it. I mean, definitely from a salary standpoint, I could take a chance on that. I mean, dude, if Philly does not go out here and fucking put the Raiders to bed at home with playoff hopes on the line coming off a Super Bowl win, these fans will have their ass, dude.
They're gonna rush the field.
It's a shame. It really is a shame because Sirianni's kind of a dope to me. Like I just think he's a dope, but what he's done, like, since being named head coach for that team, like, it's kind of egregious how people treat him and the media treats him of being on the hot seat. Because, like, what's this dude got to do? Like, he's been to fucking 2 Super Bowls. He's won one against the fucking dynasty team. Like, he definitely has kind of earned his seat at the table, so to speak. He just is kind of a dope and a doofus. But if he
He
if he loses this game, or if this game is close, or if this offense is not showing up, they'll have his ass. I'll
Yeah,
tell
but
you
so
that.
like the counter argument against it would be like the only time that they've been so good is when they've had elite coordinators, right? Like Kellen Moore, that they brought in, and Kellen Moore completely ran the offense
Sure.
by Howie Roseman, and then before that, what was it? Was it Steichen? What was the
Yeah,
offensive coordinator
but
then?
even then, Kev, have we not talked about how this offense has struggled time and time again, and it's really been the defense come playoff time that's been
Well, that's
there.
also they brought in Vic Fangio.
Vic
Obviously, that
Fangio,
was huge for that. But
yeah,
I think that. But we've also seen this before with the Eagles. Like Doug Peterson won the Super Bowl, and then shortly after was fired. So it
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah, yeah.
be in the range of
Oh yeah,
possibilities or crazy to
short
think
memory.
that he could get fired, and he definitely should. They should put up 30 points easily at home against the Raiders. But
Yeah, they should.
I don't have a lot of faith that that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, 2K for the rate. Do we got Crosby?
Yes.
If we got Crosby, we're wills up with that being in play. So that is definitely the caveat there. But yeah, stone minimum, which I feel like, Kev, it's been a while since we've had a stone minimum 2K defense on DraftKings to be able to plug and play. And so as we need salary, yeah, I can get behind that. Fun week for defense this week. Kev, let's build this Millie Maker team and get the people on their merry way. As we appreciate the DJ Nation fam rocking along with us, whether you're listening live, whether you've been choosing to go back and listen on the podcast stream. We appreciate all the love and support we've been getting. It's the DJ Nation podcast, powered by the Fantasy Authority. You can follow the Fantasy Authority on Twitter and X at FF_authority. Kev, I've built the team, I feel like, last week, or started the build, I should say. So for the Millie team that we're going to put in for this 13 game slate, 147,058 entries is all we got to beat. Kev, where are we starting at? Where are we going? Who are you putting in first?
So could do the old pay down, but I want to go. We kind of talked a lot about this Baltimore Cincinnati game. I want to go there. Let's just lock in Lamar.
Let's do it. I'm playing Henry with him too, Kev. We're taking the full on for the ride. It can be done. It can be done. Go ahead and say it. Put them in.
We saw it last year. I will say that we saw it last year where there was correlation there between those two and having them in there. Like I don't. I just hate. But it is what it is. We'll just give me Isaiah Likely. I'm gonna.
And then we're gonna put in we're putting in Jamar Chase at 8,100.
Yeah.
We're making it happen.
How about Woody?
49.60 per position left, by the way.
All right. How about you want to go with Woody Marks? No. We're not doing that. Give me Travis Etienne at 6,500.
Okay. We talked about it, Kev. So I like 2 tight end build this week. I'd be willing to go. I'd be leaning to go Mark Andrews, but I feel like we'll need a little bit of salary. So let's just see what happens if we put in Mike Gesicki. But I'm definitely apt to, I guess what it would be triple stack Lamar with Derrick Henry in there. But I'm putting Mike Gesicki now for the salary savings. We got $5K for 2 wide receivers and a defense left as it stands.
I was hoping you were going to say somebody else, but
yeah, I know you are. Sanat's not making it on this team right now.
No, that he wasn't the guy. You'll see now. Give me Jameson Williams.
Okay.
I was thinking Colby Parkinson as like a little mini, but
I actually do like I like getting exposure to that game, Kev. So I'm happy you went the Jameson route. Okay, so 40 for 50 per position left. I mean, we got to just see what happens if we go. So, like, if we go Raiders, we could put in Nico on this team. I don't hate that. If we went to get Mark Andrews too, there's still some decent 5K wide receivers we could get to. Let's see if we just plug in.
I mean, I think you either go because if we went Nico, so in the flex that would leave. You could either go Gesicki,
which is what I had originally,
right? Or we could go Parkinson, who's 3,200. You could go Tinsley, who's 3,100. I think one of those three.
Yeah, I like getting a Nico. I think I was just playing around, see what we could do. So
I feel like this lineup has a lot of ceiling, right? Because Jameson Williams, big play wide receiver, crush Nico.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of ceiling there with that.
Yeah, we got Likely right now, so yeah, we'll go Gesicki for right now. Just see if he can outscore Mark Andrews in the same lineup. This is a weird bid for us, but we might need to get back on track and right the ship. So DJ Nation fam, we got the Millie Maker built out for you with 200 salary remaining on the table. It's Lamar Jackson at quarterback with Derrick Henry and Travis Etienne at your running back position, Jamar Chase, Jameson Williams, Nico Collins at wide receiver, double tight end with Isaiah Likely and Mike Gesicki, and then Raiders defense to round it out. That is going to be, at this current juncture in this current state and time, the Millie Maker team for the DJ Nation podcast, which means that's going to do it for the Week 15 NFL DFS pick breakdown for the DJ Nation podcast. Kev, you got any final words for the people as we get ready to close out the slate here?
Well, I think it's a fun slate for sure. There's a lot of different angles to attack on this slate, like a lot of different directions to go. And so really it's going to be trying to see whatever way if you can fit in, that top game. But I think there's other games to get to as well. And I like, just by looking at ownership, like that game is not drawing a ton of ownership, like as a whole, like that, the Rams and Lions game. So if you could find an angle where you love the plays to get the value to be able to pay up for that expensive game environment, like that could end up being what pays, being the top. But if you want to fade that, there's other ways to go for sure. And then the last one would be like, how would you change? Because obviously, I feel like if we knew that like Josh Jacobs was out, I think we would have Emmanuel Wilson in this lineup. I feel pretty confident. And so then, like, if that's the case, that really opens up the rest of it, all of this of what you can do.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like we would go. Yeah, we'd probably. I mean, you have ETN in there right now, but we could easily take out Gesicki, put him in, possibly pivot on ETN, up Raiders D. There's ways around it because I actually do like the wide receiver plays that we have. So if we're able to just save a little bit of money, then up Gesicki to a viable either wide receiver or tight end, maybe even RB3 in that flex, that would be the play.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. But right now, I don't know. So I think Jacob's got a limited practice today, so it sounds like there's probably a decent chance he plays. But in the event that he doesn't, then I think Emmanuel Wilson kind of unlocks everything that you'd want to. And I actually think if Emmanuel Wilson plays, if he was the starter and Jacobs was out, I think then you would see that Rams game become way more popular because it would make it very easy to be able to get to that game.
You're
right. When you have a $4,400 running back, that's available.
You're right. Yeah, and maybe Woody Marks would get squeezed a little bit, but you're looking at probably Marks and Emmanuel Wilson as the two running backs there to be able to double stack Stafford or get Goff and Amon-Ra, another pass catcher. So yeah, I can see that for sure. Yeah, we're in for a doozy, and what would it be? We're week 15. We got a month left of football breakdown to bring you DJ Nation fam. We're going to be happy to do so. It's the DJ Nation podcast, again powered by the Fantasy Authority at FF_authorities, where you can find us on Twitter and X. Week 15 is in the books, but we're going to be coming at you live and back on the podcast airwaves for the rest of the month. We know we're getting into holiday season there, DJ Nation fam. So, we will be able to get you breakdowns, at least for the main slate, for sure. That is over the next couple of weeks. You just, you might not be hearing us all the time on a Thursday with the way that holidays are falling, but we'll still make sure to get you the build for the main slate in ample time. Because that's what we do, and that's what we love doing for the DJ Nation fam, as we all are out here trying to be in these DFS streets. Kev, signing off for the people. And Kevin Steele at Fantasy Rap 13 is where you can find him on Twitter and X. He's the godfather of the Fantasy Authority. He's the man that makes it all happen. He's the guy with the Santa hat, which you'll probably see if you're watching these podcasts all month long, getting into the holiday spirit. Myself, Ryan Williams, at Ryan_Alexander_W. We will catch you guys next time for the Week 16 breakdown. But until then, get this money. We'll catch you. Peace.